a lot of big news this week, especially with the MLB, and let's just get right into it. First, the MLB released a news release today on the 12th, and I'll just read through some of the additions they have here. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Chris.
Oh, you mentioned it to me. I haven't really looked at it yet. So why don't you run through those new proposed changes?
Okay, I'm taking this right off the news release that they put out today. So first, there's the one new rule is a 3-batter minimum, and to break it down is essentially when a pitcher comes into a game as a relief pitcher, they have to face a minimum of 3 batters unless they're injured or the end of the inning occurs. So, and the injury kind of, like, I guess you could kind of get away with maybe faking injuries. So there's some umpire's discretion in this. So the main factor for this is there's no lefty on lefty matchups where the pitcher comes in and then immediately comes out after facing just one batter. I don't mind this rule. I think it could speed up the pace of the game. I don't really think it was necessary though.
Yeah, I think now is this a proposed change, like the
No,
playoff
no,
thing, or
this is changed.
Oh, man, the MLB is just finding new ways to disappoint me. Like I can't believe what happens if you're a lefty specialist and your bread and butter is coming in for one batter a game.
You better
Getting that
figure
big
it
first
out.
baseman
You
out.
got to figure it out.
But it's such an integral part of the game, and it's so much part. Like you take away so much manager's choice. Like what the biggest thing that the manager is doing is managing his bullpen. That's the biggest job a manager has, in my opinion. And you're diminishing that role in an attempt to make the game faster. It's like, what are we going to gain? Like one less commercial break per game, a couple more less commercial breaks per game. Like I don't think it's really worth it. I think this radically changes the game in a negative way.
I agree. And you were asking when this is effective. It's March 12th for the start of spring training. So
wow.
right away they change it.
Man,
now there's so that's a big change. Now there's also some active roster changes too. So rosters through August 31st in postseason. So active roster limits from opening day through August 31st and including postseason games shall be increased from 25 to 26. In addition, clubs will be permitted to carry a maximum of 13 pitchers from opening day through August 31st plus postseason games.
Now I like the idea of adding one more player.
Yeah,
I like that a lot too. What I don't really like is putting a limit on or a set number on how many pitchers you can have, because I think that's part of the strategy of the game. You know, if you want to have a deep bench, then you sacrifice maybe a couple bullpen positions. You want a really deep bullpen, maybe you sacrifice a couple bench positions.
See, I think
these are all little nuances that make each team unique and different, and it just creates more strategy to the game. You're really simplifying it down, dumbing it down.
See, I agree with you, but I think this is maybe to keep some continuity between the leagues, because I mean the DH discussion's a thing for another day, but in National League you're going to need more bench. But you could easily be an American League team and carry a lot less position players, carry a lot of pitchers. Kind of would give an unfair advantage, especially in some interleague games.
No, I get that. That's actually a good point. I didn't consider that. Yeah, that's pretty fair. Make it evening it out with the DH rule. Now it'll be interesting to see what they do with the DH in the National League. Maybe this is kind of a little bit of a test the water, feel how it, like we're making some changes in that direction, and then the big change is going to be the DH and the NL coming up.
And the other big active roster limit rule is for September rosters. Now, from September 1st through the end of the championship season, including any tiebreaker games, all clubs must carry 28 players on the active roster. In addition, clubs will be permitted to carry a maximum of 14 pitchers during this period. So no 40-man rosters in September, which I love. I hated that.
Yeah, no, it becomes a tryout. Like, it's boring baseball to watch. It's confusing baseball to watch when number 98 is out on the field. Like that's a needed change.
Yeah, when you have like the Yankees who are playing for a postseason spot and the Orioles have their 5th lefty off the bench in this game, it makes no sense.
No, it's just not good baseball. It really takes the brakes off things. Like there's really not a lot of reason unless your team is in a really close playoff run. Like the last 2 weeks of the regular season, really boring.
Yeah,
Really boring sports.
I agree. There's a few more active roster limit changes here. They're a little bit wordy, a little confusing. So instead of reading it out for you guys, I'll post it. We'll post it on our Instagram page where you guys can find it there, kind of read through it a bit. It's about two-way player designations, some position player pitching stuff. It looks a little confusing the way they worded it, and an extra player rule. So I will post that on our Instagram for you guys to read as you please. And then, so another big rule here that I like is a reduction in challenge time. So now managers will now have up to 20 seconds to challenge a play instead of 30. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Now those are
the
those are the little fine tuning adjustments, that really go a long way. Those are the moves. If you want to condense a game, it's in the little things. It's not in the big things like making it so you have the 3 batter minimum for relief pitchers. Like that's too big of a change for something like trying to make the game shorter.
Yeah.
Whereas taking 10 seconds off the challenge time, it's those little adjustments that really add up over the course of a season.
Yeah, because in the game, when the managers stand at the top of the dugout, just kind of this handout for weight and just adding that feels forever. Just taking 10 seconds off that and just changes. It's not going to change a lot time wise, but feel wise, it will feel a lot quicker.
Yeah. It's interesting talking about real changes to the challenge rule, considering in wake of the XFLs, which started last weekend, which had a fantastic method for the challenges, that being you can actually hear what the play reviewer is thinking because he talks it out you hear the conversation between him and the referees. I wonder if you implemented that into the MLB, being able to hear the guy make the decision, it could take just as long as if you're watching an MLB game and you're just you're going back and forth from watching the replay of the play to just watching these guys with these fatzos with headsets listening to the guy in New York.
Hey, no shots at Joe West here. Big Country Joe.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, being able to listen to that conversation, I don't know, because actually something's happening on the television, it feels like it goes quicker. I wonder if that's going to be a change they're going to make in the future now that they're starting to monkey around with the challenge rule, especially.
No, I completely agree with you, and I would pay extra money to be able to listen to these reviews, because half the time they come out and they won't do what you think happens. Half the time the announcers, it'll go the opposite way that they've been telling you for the last 5 minutes they felt it was going to go, and everybody's confused and the game just goes on. So be able to get an in-depth look into that, I feel like it'd be much more clarity. You're right, it would make the feel and the pace of it feel increased, when it's in reality not. It's going to take the same amount of time, but it's just the feel of it will feel better. It would add an extra layer of intrigue. I would love to see them do that. I can't see it happening, but I love the idea of it. And now the big debate, which this is not official, but it is a potential new system for the playoffs, which I know me and you, Chris, we've argued a bit about it already today, but I'll read out the proposal, just kind of some of the quick hits here for anybody that's not aware. So this is the proposal that was laid out. So 7 teams from each league will make the postseason. Teams with the best record in each league get wild card round byes. The 2 other division winners and the top wildcard team host all games of a 3-game series in a wildcard round. The 2 other division winners get to pick their wildcard round opponents during a live broadcast from the 3 other wildcard teams, and then the other top wildcard team will play the unpicked team. And three series winners and a team with the bye advance to the divisional round. So this is going to add couple extra playoff teams to each league. It's going to have some intrigue with the top team in each league getting a bye in the first round, and then the rest of them having to do a 3-game series. The 3 straight home games in a wild card round is a wild idea, and then having a live broadcast to pick who you're going to play. I mean, that adds That adds fire to any matchup because if you get the first pick, you're essentially going on live TV saying, "I think I'm going to have the easiest time beating this team."
Now, do you think that there's actually going to be some variance in who the top team is going to pick, or do you think they're always going to be picking the bottom teams?
I mean, it's hard to say.
Because I mean, think about it too. Like, imagine if you don't go for if you're that top team and you don't go for that bottom team and you lose, the media is going to rip you to shreds for that decision.
I agree. I think it comes down to, I mean, in baseball, it's such a long season. You're going to have history against each team. So I think you'd have to look at your like this one where you could really break down the matchups, your season record against the team. You know what I mean? If there's if one team's got three really good lefty pitchers and you're a lefty heavy lineup, you might want to stay away from them type of thing. So I think there'd be a lot that would go into this, and seeing that during a live broadcast would be really cool.
And I mean, considering also the analytics, like the numbers, like ever since Moneyball that have been in baseball, so integral to the sport. Like, think about just the guys working on algorithms, to see what is the best matchup for us.
Yeah, so you're gonna have some guy come out with we feel we have this percentage chance or something to beat this team. Now, this playoff format, are you for it or against the change?
It feels like the gimmicks that I was expecting out of the XFL and that we didn't really get. Like, it feels very gimmicky. I'm open to the idea of letting more players letting more teams into the playoffs. Maybe not this much. Maybe just add two more teams but the big thing for me, and this was what Trevor Bauer posted. He released a video saying basically, Rob, this is absurd, and I'm kind of in agreement with him. He's pretty furious about it. I'm not as furious, but what he made a great point when he said the bye week is good for football, but not baseball. And football, which like the NFL does this bye week for their playoffs, and in a game like football where you're just taking so much damage, an extra week to heal up and to rest up is huge. But if you're a baseball players are playing 162 games. They're going out. If you're a pitcher, you're pitching every 5 games. You get these routines going for like half the year. You're working in these routines, and then right when it's go time, you're taking like almost a week off. So that I feel like is the biggest knock against this is giving a team a bye. I don't think it works in baseball. I don't think it's a reward in baseball, given that just baseball players are creatures of habit. Like, I was reading an article in Yahoo Canada Sports, and they were saying it's brilliant. Like, this is a great move, and what they were praising it for is it had incremental incentives. So for each team, like, even though a lot of teams are getting into the playoffs, there's still an incentive to be at the top because you get this bye. But in my view, that bye is almost more of a punishment than a reward. So your incremental incentives that is supposed to be the selling feature of this new playoff system is actually like backwards, because the team, like, if you're in, like, you've had a great season, you're ready for the playoffs, and then you're taking a week off, that's just going to throw you off your rhythm, especially if you're a pitcher, especially if you're a batter who's just on a hot streak. You're trying to carry that hot streak through September into October, and then that just stops right in its tracks when you take a week off. Think about the teams in the playoffs that, like, let's say the championship series one champion series goes 7 games, one goes 4, right? In between the time for where the team that won in 4 waiting for the team to win in 7, those time like that's way less downtime than what's going to be given in this bye week, and those downtimes have been detrimental to teams.
I see your point. I can understand it, and I completely disagree with it.
Come at me, Brad.
I'll tell you why. First of all, Trevor Bauer, when he cuts his finger on a drone again, might like a few extra days off to let that heal up. in the
Hey,
playoffs.
no personal attacks, okay? No person. That's my boy Trevor Bauer, okay? Everyone
All right.
makes mistakes, okay? Drones are dangerous and they're also very fun to play with, okay? You
Yeah.
take something that's fun to play with and very dangerous, and what do you think's gonna fucking happen, Brad? Okay, lay off the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Don't come at Canada, Trevor Bauer. We don't forget.
America, baby.
But in terms of it's the rest versus rust debate, and
Mhm.
I get they're creatures of habit, but at the end of a 162 game season, and don't it's not a full playoff series. It's 3 games that are all at home. They're all home games for one team. So it's going to be one city. You can likely those 3 games could happen in 3 days, likely four.
But are they gonna
So
happen right after the season ends?
I would assume so. So you're gonna have already as it is. You already have a 2 to 3 day break because of the wild card games as it is because they stagger those games. So now you're creating a instead of what is already a 2 day break is now like a 3 to 4 day break, and you're giving your players that have had a grueling season those extra couple of days to heal. Your ace pitcher, who's been laboring a bit with his shoulder, gets a few extra days to rest up. Like I think back to in the Blue Jays playoff runs where I was looking at Russell Martin when he would swing for a pitch, go down to one knee in the batter's box, and it took everything in him to even get up, and then he had to go squat behind the dish. You give him an extra 3 to 4 days off, that does wonders for the body. They're
Okay,
they're
so
not they're gonna still stay active in the gym or everything. I get they're not playing the games. You get kind of out of your routine, but like they're not taking a couple weeks off. They're taking a few days, and
okay,
then
so
they're
so
right
so
back
so it,
into it.
so if you're saying that like people need a break because they've played a 162 game season, they need the rest.
I'm not saying they need a break. I'm saying the top teams get the deserved break.
But you're referencing people that are like stumbling at the plate and shit. You know, maybe for those people we don't make the postseason longer. Because think about it, if you're not those two teams, like you're now playing an extra round of playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, which makes sense to me. I'm not saying that they shouldn't make it longer. I'm sure Russell Martin that year when he was struggling to stand up could have wanted to play an extra 50 games if they'd let him to stay in the playoffs. I agree with the extra playoff games, but I'm saying that I think the extra amount of time off, which is not exorbitant or any means, it's a couple days, is going to be well deserved for the top teams and is worth it for worth the incentive.
I guess I don't know, but and like the biggest problem with me with any talk about like expanding the playoffs so that more teams get in, I've always liked about baseball, and it's pretty similar with football, where it's an elite bunch that gets into the playoffs. Like it's not like the NBA where tons of teams are getting in, and the postseason really doesn't matter that much, or the
Whoa,
regular
okay.
season doesn't really doesn't matter that
Whoa.
much.
That's a stretch to say that the regular season doesn't matter very much. I would argue that the regular season matters a whole hell of a lot more in the NBA than the MLB. But you look at the NBA, the NHL, where 8 teams in each conference make it in. You're like you come down to the last month of the season, you could have 4 or 5 teams still fighting for playoff spots in a playoff race. Where you look at the MLB, by the time you get to July, damn near half the league already knows that they're out of a playoff spot, and they're bringing up prospects, and you it's visually you can see that they're not invested anymore because they're not in it for a playoff spot. Hell, you could probably name 10 teams in the MLB right now that by their budget and with the product they're going to put out, then they're not even going to sniff a playoff spot, and by June that'll be very obvious. So,
And that's why they
so
call it the dog days. It's part of baseball.
yeah,
Some teams are
but
shit
you
some years.
yeah, and how are you supposed to grow a fan base when you look at a team like the Seattle Mariners haven't made the playoffs since 2001? Like, how are you supposed to grow a fan base? Are you gonna expect them to just come see our team that just routinely just never makes the playoffs? Like as a Blue Jays fan myself, playing in a division with the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays, who seem to just be sneaky good every few years. Like you're looking at like in 2015 and 2016, that was the first time they made the playoffs since 92, 93. And in those 2 years, it felt as a fan, like it felt amazing, especially because they just never get to that point. But it also felt like we had to capitalize that year because you never know when you're going to get back. It's going to be, and it's not where the Yankees and Red Sox, they're in it every other year. And that's who, like, being in that division, you're up against it every year. Going into this year, I just they're I can't see any situation where the Jays even get close to a playoff spot. So how am I supposed to be excited as a fan if I know that's going to happen? And now, am I going to watch games? Yes, but I'm a pretty hardcore baseball fan. If you're a casual fan, if the Toronto Blue Jays is trying to make a casual fan out of you, how are they supposed to promote to you when and they know if they look into it at all that there's no way you make the playoffs? Playoff baseball is where you're going to get the excitement, where you're going to grow the fans, and when you get more teams in it, it's going to do this. You're going to get more money from the fans. You're going to have teams put more money into their budget because there's more incentive to make the playoffs. Because if you feel like you can get there with a little bit extra money, right? There's more spots. You're going to put that in. That makes the players happy. You're going to be bringing in more revenues from fans. I think it's a win-win all the way around.
You know what that sounds like to me, Brad? When I was in elementary school, my least favorite day of the year was always track and field day when we go out and track and field. Why did I hate track and field day? Because I'm slow as hell and I have the vertical of a slug. So when we're doing like the high jump and I'm barely even getting onto the mat, I felt awful, right? You know what made me feel worse was when they were giving out the first, second, and third place ribbons, and then they gave everybody else a fourth place ribbon. It's this participation trophy SJW shit, and I'm tired of it. And now it's coming into my MLB. You know, my boomer is just getting furious. Okay, it's getting furious. You know,
how is it like that where they're just like 14 teams in this are gonna make it? It's not even half the league.
It's almost half the league, Brad.
Well, yeah, it's not though. It's 14 teams.
Yeah, but there's 30 teams in the league. It's almost half the league.
Okay. Do you not think that when the NHL does it and you have an 8 seed like the LA Kings quite a few years back make a miracle run and win the Stanley Cup, that is not awesome?
No, because they shouldn't have been in there in the first place. I want my elite teams.
To me, a Cinderella run is amazing. I
the
love
Cinderella's run is exciting when it's a wild card team going up against division winner. But when you throw in like 3 wildcard teams in a sport where literally anybody can beat anybody on any given day, it's kind of unfair to the teams that have busted their ass in the regular season and are the elite top of the top.
What's unfair about it? Don't fucking lose then.
Yeah, but what if they fucking lose, Brad? That whole season.
Then it wasn't their year to win.
Bullshit.
It's who shows up at the end.
Bullshit.
I like it. I think there's some ways that you can make this adjustment better, like the live broadcast where you can pick the teams you play against. I think that's a sweet idea. I think it's maybe not what you do in the premier baseball league in the world.
Yeah, it does not feel like the MLB. Like I feel like if that is the thing that bothers me the most. Is this like it feels like a reality TV show, and it just seems like just another thing they're trying to get everybody to talk about, you know. But I don't think it's gonna work. Like it just feels very awkward.
To me, like I think if you really look at this proposal, I think you could be like, there's a few dramatic things in this. That are you really thinking about this, or do you really just want us to stop talking about the Astros?
Yeah,
but
dude, that's the strategy, man. You know, you shut up about the Astros. They throw out some crazy shit like this. Yo, why do you think the coronavirus is going on right now? We're not talking about Hong Kong anymore.
But
that was a character piece.
Yeah, character piece. But I do like I do like some of these ideas of it. For me, what I would change for this is this, and this isn't even, it's not even really close what they did here. I agree with more teams. I agree. You take the NBA where it's a 1 through 8, where the top three, 1, 2, 3 are the division winners, and then the rest are just seeded by points or wins. I that's what I think should happen. Because then you have 16 total teams, and you break it out. You don't have no fucking 5-game divisional series, 3-game wildcard series. You have 4 7-game series, which makes you fucking baseball. You play 162 games in a year. If you need to cut into the regular season, do that to have more games in the playoffs. People far rather see more playoff games than fucking game 155 of the regular season when your team's out of the playoffs.
Oh, I totally agree. I agree with that. Like, as we were talking about before, September baseball, those last 2 weeks, man, it's brutal to watch.
Especially when
just,
like your team, like it could be fucking like 13th place in the league, and they're not making the play. They're not sniffing the playoffs.
Now, what does this do to divisions? What's this going to do to divisions? Like, are divisions even relevant now that there's card spots?
Yeah, they're still very relevant. Like, are you talking about my idea or they proposed?
Their proposal.
Yeah, they're very relevant. You win the division, you're guaranteed a spot, and then if you win the division, you either get the bye if you're the top division leader, or you're one of the teams that pick who you play.
Now, what about what if they did it? They added these rounds, but they did it like when they added the wild card game, and it was a one game.
I will say something.
Thing.
The one thing too, I fucking hate the wild card game.
I like it. I know it's stupid for baseball. Like it honestly makes no sense for baseball to have a one game, one and done. But the drama of it is like it's good television.
Yeah, it makes for great TV. I won't argue. It makes for great TV, but it's fucking stupid.
No, if I'm a player and I'm like putting a whole season into one game, like, and I lose that game, like I'm so cheesed.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, what were you saying there about the
okay,
division?
So what if like now I know what your answer is now that I've heard your response to what your reaction to the in place wild card. But what if they added all these rounds and just made them like one game playoffs?
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's
like what if we got rid of what if we let every team into the wild card? Like every team you get a wild card, and then now we just have like NFL one game playoffs, like sudden death. And it's just get rid of the 162 games. Let's just have a 30 game, like it's single elimination, and it's just one big like tournament to the death, basically.
So you essentially want March Madness for baseball?
Yeah, that would be condensed. You want to condense the game of baseball? You want the kids to get involved? That's what the kids want, I think.
Now, as much as I would watch the ever-loving shit out of that, I would absolutely hate it with everything in me.
No, I'm waiting for given all this stuff changing in the MLB, like especially, I mean, with the 3-batter minimum, if this, with that stuff going through, only Vince McMahon can save us. Hit me with that XBL, baby. I want the XBL and make the XBL like a 30 game sudden death big tournament. Like put it in like March or something during spring training. That would be awesome.
And I really hope all our listeners are absolutely loving the XFL season so far, like we are, because as you can tell, Chris is bringing it up every 5 minutes.
Dude,
I hope everybody's loving it. Yeah, I think the XFL needs to happen in every league. It's amazing.
Yeah, Vince McMahon just needs to take over the sports world. Like you just got to run all this shit now. It was funny. I was talking to my buddy who's a huge NFL fan, like big football, big Broncos fan. And I asked him, I was like, so like, what do you think the XFL weekend? And he was just totally indifferent to it. And like, I was shocked. Like I was like, what? It's like, people are not into the XFL. Like I forget how like new this shit is and how like actually like, people have their still reservation about it. Cause I'm just all in on the XFL right now.
Yeah. Same here. I'm completely all in. Now before we move past this topic though,
Yeah.
What would you change for the MLB postseason, or would you just leave it as it is?
I would leave it as it is, and mostly because like there's a boomer in me that just doesn't like changing shit. Like,
Yeah. So
you know,
so you just gave the wrong answer, but that's okay.
yeah, basically. I just don't like, and I just like, as I've said, I just really like the idea that, like, yes, you're cutting a lot of people out of the postseason early, but hey, that's life, you know. And as a Mets fan, like, I know, like, it would be nice if the Mets were in the postseason more often, but at the same time, like, when they made it in 2015, man, that was really special, and it really felt like the Mets were the elite of the elite, and that feeling you can't beat that feeling. But I, you know, now that we've had the conversation, like, I'm more open to it now that we've talked. Like, I'll admit, like, it's not as bad as I was thinking. I know I was listening to, I got that Trevor Bauer voice in my ear, you know, just egging me on, you know. So, but yeah, I think your proposed change, I think, works a little bit better. It makes a little bit more sense. It's a little less gimmicky. But overall, like, this is not the worst thing they could have done to the playoff system or anything. Like, really, I'm more upset about the confirmed change, and that's the 3-batter minimum. I think that breaks the game of baseball. Like, it really
I
changes
think that's
things.
aggressive to say it breaks the game of baseball. I think it. I mean,
It breaks.
it.
What are the most important innings in a baseball game? 7,
Yeah,
8, 9.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's when like those pitchers, those one batter matchups, those really matter. Like, when you have a Bryce Harper up and
Yeah,
you
that's
bring
who I
in
was
your
just thinking.
lefty, that's
Yeah.
huge. And you got, let's say you have Bryce Harper and then 2 righties. You know, what the fuck are you gonna do? Put in a righty against Harper when the game on the line? Like, you
But
can't.
that
That
I know I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is the way the game's shifting, whether we like it or not. It really is shifting this way,
Well,
and
the
I'm
boomer in me is getting very angry. I don't like this change.
uh,
All these
uh, uh,
stupid kids. We're trying, like, all these kids don't give a fuck about baseball, and we're trying to bend over backwards to make them happy, and we're just pissing off the actual fans of baseball. And I get that you have to get the next generation into it and shit, but I don't know, the 3-batter minimum. It's too big of it's make it a 2-batter minimum at least.
and for all the listeners out there, when he's talking like this, keep in mind this kid's 20 years old. He's not he's no boomer out here.
Yeah, but man,
Yeah,
I got that boomer. Dude, I was raised by Bill O'Reilly, okay? Sitting in front of Fox News, okay? I
yeah. I
got
feel
that boomer
sorry
in
for
me.
you, then. I
I got
feel
that
sorry
boomer
for you.
in me. Hey,
Yeah,
Bill
sorry for
O'Reilly's a
your
Mets fan.
troubles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
you know, the thing
Among a
about
lot of other things.
the thing with Bill O'Reilly, like, that taught me, don't meet your heroes, man. Don't meet your heroes, because man, that guy, he was a freak.